actually love that my husband's taken on doing classes and has been doing for a while, because while you all get to sit in here, I get to go curl up with my daughter now. Have fun, ask questions. I implore you all to just have an open heart, as I would say in chick language, so whatever the equivalent is for the boys, but an open heart, so you're expanded in a place of receiving from someone who's had a pretty special journey with these oils and with the supplements. I feel really encouraged to see so many men in here, and very humbled to have you all in our home journeying. And as I see more of the brothers coming together, I see my husband, his purpose of what he's been wanting to realise for quite a while, which is the menfolk coming together and being open enough to share what ails them or what's going on in their life or in their journey right now. Whether it's their beloved about to have a baby and first baby and how that feels, and excitement and scary and whatever, or just whatever else may be happening. So I know it works differently for men and for women, but just enjoy. Really get into it and enjoy it. And as you smell the oils, this is probably something that I'm loving watching with men. Just really notice for yourselves as men where they go in your body and how they feel as you smell them. Because if you can be really conscious of how you feel just from smelling them, imagine the worlds you're going to change just by sharing a drop of one of these oils with one of the men. So thank you, have fun. Enjoy your class, baby. Well, I'm going to go snuggle with Ariel and I'll poke my head around. And
have fun.
I think you've got it.
I'll end up watching a Disney movie or something like that, I'm sure. Yeah, look, so I've had an interesting journey with the essential oils. When I started out, and Vanessa first got into doTERRA, I wasn't into doTERRA. I was just the the sort of husband off to the side, and these little I call them minions because like that Despicable Me movie where there's a million of those little yellow things. Well, that's what these became in my life, because they started out in the bedroom, like in the ensuite. There's a few there that Vanessa used, and then it grew to be a few more over in the kitchen that she started cooking with, and then they're everywhere in the house, so they're taken over my life, so I call them minions. But that's what it was like in the beginning for me. But as time went on and I started using the essential oils, I realised very much that I was kind of in a very big minority, and I was stuck out there by myself pretty much. And the reason I started using them and came on board with doTERRA, even from a business perspective, was a very personal beginning of the journey for me. Many of you have heard the story, so I'm not going to go into it in too much depth and detail, but suffice it to say, I had a very deeply personal tragedy in our family, and I lost my younger brother 3.5 years ago now, just Christmas 3.5 years ago, and by his own choice. So it was a tragedy for us as a family. It was a very difficult time. And I've always been known, and for those of you who already know me now, you would know me as a positive and upbeat and outgoing personality. I don't really get beaten down by too much. But I did find myself going downhill after that for the first time in my life, and I had an appreciation and a compassion for people who suffer, particularly with mental health issues, in a way that I didn't have that compassion or understanding before. So at the same time, Vanessa had just got started doing doTERRA, and really not as a business. She just loved the oils and just wanted to share them, and everyone who knows Vanessa knows that she's just sort of a little joy bubble that wants to spread good things over everybody and share them. So she started doing all these classes, and then there was a class that was getting taught by a guy who was a doctor, a GP, but he was also a doTERRA wellness advocate. And he got to the point where he was sharing essential oils with his clients or customers, or whatever you want to call them, probably as much as he was doing anything else. And I went along to have a listen, and I was really interested to hear about something that he talked about with the supplements that doTERRA had, and how they might help reverse a condition inside of at an organ level within about 18 months. And I had a kidney challenge at the time, which was quite a rare thing, and I thought, okay, I'm going to give these a go. And I started taking the Lifelong Vitality Pack with DDR Prime, and I talk about that in all my men's classes, because whilst it's supported my physical body, what it did for me mentally, and it brought me back from from what I feel really was the brink of going the same way as my brother was going, because I was really feeling like that. And within just a couple of weeks, I came back so strongly, and my mental strength came back. My ability to hold a sentence together and talk in front of people came back, and I was feeling like I cared again about all the things I should care about. So that was my beginning of my journey. And then, as I realised it happened to me, and I started talking about it with other people and at other events, I realised it's a massive problem, and guys are pretty poor at taking care of each other as a community, whereas the girls do it really well. I always make the joke, I guess, but they laugh together, they cry together, they tell each other everything, and I mean everything, particularly about us blokes. And we end up, going the other way a lot. We sort of make ourselves an island unto ourselves a lot, and we don't really share a lot of the stuff. So that was my entree into doTERRA, and as I went through the journey, I started to understand and learn more about the science of the oils as well, which kind of caught me by surprise, because although Vanessa had been using them for many years and she loved essential oils, she really did use them for to smell nice, and although her knowledge about the science of the oils is probably encyclopedic, I didn't realise how much she knew about the science of it. I thought it was just something that was an aromatherapy kind of thing from the perspective of making your house smell nice, make yourself smell nice and feel good, and she did always smell beautiful, and she always felt good, so I thought, well, this is a good thing. But it wasn't until I started experiencing this and using them myself, and she was using them on me surreptitiously to make me be more positive and happy, that I really started to get interested in sharing it with everyone else. Hence the men's classes. So they seem to be something that people wish I would do more of, but I'm too busy and we're travelling all the time. But I love to do them. How many of you guys already use the doTERRA essential oils as men? Okay, so probably two-thirds of the guys. Probably should have asked it the other way around. It's often a case, I think, that the guys are using them, or should have been sort of slowly but surely taking them on. And the girls that come along, how many of you have come along to sort of learn a bit more about how to teach classes to men? Who likes the idea? Yeah. I think it's important to understand that as men, we're very solutions focused. We're not really. This is a lot of the range of essential oils and stuff that doTERRA has, and to ask a man to go out and sort of use his intuition about which oils he needs, and to make himself feel better, and be aware of his emotions and make up a blend that's going to support him throughout the day is just the most ridiculous thing that I've ever heard. And I just know that I'm not going to do that, like most blokes aren't going to do that. I mean, every once in a while I've actually gotten to the point where I do think about it and I go, what do I need? But it's not common for us guys. I think, young girls grow up, and even my daughter, she's a tiny wisp of a thing, but she's very much a sort of a tomboy. She's into riding motorbikes and climbing things and doing crazy stuff. But even now at 12, she started to want to go and find mum's makeup and do things, because her cousin's a little bit older and she's doing that kind of stuff. So for girls, it's very much a natural thing to want to start putting lotions and potions on and making yourself look great and smell nice and those kind of things. And for guys, it's like deodorant, hair's kind of brushed, good enough. Well, it's true, isn't it, right? I mean, you're laughing because it's true. So it's how do you talk to men about essential oils, and really my paradigm around essential oils in the beginning was that they're for people with, tie-dyed pants who didn't own any shoes. I just sort of always saw them as being in places like the markets and, kind of those kind of things. So I didn't have really any understanding at all about the science of it, but I've come to know a lot more, and it's great that even for those of you who are about to have your first child, your ability to be able to take care of some of those day-to-day things that are going to come up with in a natural way is pretty empowering, considering for those of you who have been there, and I have, where your kids are suffering badly from something. And I remember my son, when he was 2, he had febrile convulsions. Anyone know what that is? Yeah, it was so scary, I thought he was dying, because he just went into these fits, from this high temperature, and his body didn't have the ability to cope with it and regulate it. And it was the day before I was getting married to Vanessa, and we had ambulances coming and all kinds of stuff, super scary. And when you have those moments, you sort of think, oh my God. But leading up to that, we knew he had a temperature, but we only had what we knew at the time, and this was, he's 15 years old now, so we did the things like give them Panadol or Nurofen or whatever it was at the time. But you know, you can't do anything for the next 4 hours after that, and you sort of feel a bit powerless, and this gives us a whole new way. So pass one of these out for each of the guys. What I did work out very early on is that all of the doTERRA range, and this is their wholesale price list for doTERRA, and to show that to a man and ask him to kind of select the oils that he needs and what's going to work for him, I think is really a bridge too far. And I realised that men are very much problem and solution focused, you know. And you ladies would know this, because when you go and talk to your man about, you know, how you're feeling and what's going on for you, and you just want him to listen and sit there and then maybe give you a hug at the end and tell you it's going to be okay, that doesn't actually happen. And what he does at the end, he goes, well, it's simple, just tell her she's being an idiot and tell her to piss off, or whatever the thing is. And we go very much into solving the problem. And but our healthcare is like that too. As men, we don't tend to take that much proactive care in it, but we do very much respond well when there's an issue and we want to get a solution for it. So this is the list of things that I've made up for men. So, you know, support for mental health and physical well-being, pain if you have it, sleep and snoring if that's an issue for you, those kind of things. And I think it's, so for you girls who are here to learn about how to teach to guys, teach to the problem rather than teach the same intro class that you would normally teach. Because I teach classes, you know, intro classes as well. We did this one this week for Jared, and his wife Ash has just started out in the business, and it was an intro class, and it was pretty much all girls. I mean, Jared and Judy were there, and the rest I think were ladies. There's about 15 ladies there, and I taught the intro class exactly the same way that we teach it to be done and the way Vanessa does them. But when it comes to teaching guys, I kind of do it differently. So let's get into it anyway. Many of you will know my little trick with it, but one of the favourites that I use is peppermint, and I pass this oil around first because a lot of people have not had much exposure to essential oils and how they can be used. And the doTERRA oils, being 100% therapeutic grade pure oils that don't have any fillers or synthetics or anything else in them, they're able to be used 3 ways. So we can use them aromatically, like you know, we can use them in a diffuser. So into our environment, if you can see a diffuser there, we have, and there's one behind Ben at the back there. We can use them topically on our body, and we can also use them internally. So this is a quick way to demonstrate how you can do all 3. So feel free to engage in this if you like. Anyone in the room pregnant? No? High blood pressure? All healthy? Okay, so maybe you don't want to do the first part of this, but, and I'll explain why. So I just take 1 drop. If you can get 1 drop to come out by itself, you've done well. It's often a couple, right? But I just take my thumb and I put it onto my palm of my hand. I put it on the roof of my mouth, like that. Then I use my forefinger and just rub it behind my ears. Take care not to get it in your ears, in your nose, in your eyes. And as Vanessa is fond of saying, take care of your pits and your bits. So there's certain spots that you shouldn't get them. And then I just rub my hands together and take a couple of nice deep breaths. You'll notice the heat of it, if you like. It's so cool it kind of runs hot. So over time, over the next 3 or 4 minutes, you're going to notice it kind of build up on you. The way I like to use peppermint, a lot of science has been done around essential oils. So how many of you guys do any training or physical activity or sports or gym or anything like that? So wow. Look at that. So lots of healthy guys. A lot of science and research has been done, but one of the things they found about peppermint is that it can produce an up to 51% increase in aerobic output. So if you're into doing those aerobic activities, that's going to help a lot. And also a 25% increase in time to muscle exhaustion, which is, so if you're doing maybe more the weightlifting type things and that kind of stuff, it's giving you that extra ability to do that extra rep or 2 at the end, which is where your growth and all those kind of things come from. So if you can get that extra 25%, it's a big difference. But and a lot of professional sports people and athletes around the world are using doTERRA now. Even our rugby team in Brisbane is using doTERRA peppermint and ice blue before they play and train to get that extra sort of benefit, I guess. But I use it because I get that weak point in the day, I guess, where I sort of lose energy and I start to sort of feel like a bit blah. Does anyone get that? Do you guys get that? What time of day do you normally get it? 3, yeah. The answer is always between 2 and 4 o'clock. It's for everyone. So I think we all suffer the same thing. So what do you guys do to combat it?
Coffee.
Coffee?
Chocolate water.
Yeah, you do. But take a nap, that was actually a good thing if you've got the freedom and flexibility to do it, but most of us are at work, and if we get caught doing that too often, probably won't be at work too much longer. But we tend to go for things like caffeine, chocolate, sugar, and the younger generation will go to Red Bull and V and all those kinds of things to sort of get that spike in energy back up. But what happens is it creates that vicious cycle then of a peak after the sugar or the caffeine hit, and then crash again, and then sleeping and those kind of things becomes an issue as a byproduct of doing that. So one of the ways that I like to use peppermint is I used to drink 3, 4, 5, 6 cups of coffee a day, and now I just have like 1 or 2 in the morning, usually just 1. And in that point of the day where it comes, I can use peppermint, and it really enlivens me. Who's feeling a little bit already kind of, gee, I've just woke up a bit from the peppermint? Do you feel it? Yeah. You really do, don't you? It's so instant. But it's not something that you can have negative side effect to, as far as, you can't have too much of it. It's not going to become addictive or anything like that. I actually use it after I have my coffee as well, just to get rid of the coffee breath. So it's pretty good. In fact, it comes in these little beadlets, so you can just have, what is it, 1/4 drop of in each one. And they just are addictive. Are they? Yes. So they just come in this, I don't know if anyone can see that, but that tiny little beadlet there, and it's in a little veggie cap, and you can literally just chew that and swallow it and not waste it. So that's gone. But so I use peppermint like that. But that's to sort of demonstrate also the power of the peppermint. Who feels like it's gone and blown the top of their head off when they put their thumb up inside their mouth and stuff? Ooh. And they are very strong. They're between 50 and 70 times more powerful than the source from which they come naturally. So if you can imagine going and plucking a peppermint leaf off your bush outside and chewing it, it's very, very mild compared to this experience. So they're very powerful. And one of the things to be mindful of is less is more when it comes to the use of them, because of that strength and that highly concentrated nature. So from the perspective of men's physical health and mental well-being, I try to kind of keep it boiled down to just a small number of oils that I use that I think men can use effectively and easily without having to have a big kit like this. And I have this kit of all these oils to be able to teach classes about all the things, but the reality is we travel so much. We've been home 6.5 weeks this year. This is my kit, my personal one. That's what I take with me everywhere. It comes on the plane, it goes everywhere, and this has got my guaranteed sort of ones that I've got to have in there. And it holds 10 oils, but I jam about 2 little extra ones in there. And I try and get through the airport security and hope they don't hit me up for I've been over my 100 mils, because I just don't know which ones to give up on when I'm travelling. From a perspective of mental health particularly, as well as physical health, but frankincense is absolutely amazing, and it's my wife's favourite oil by far. In fact, I'm acutely aware of the fact that where I stand in the pecking order of things in this household is, from Vanessa's standpoint, is our daughter is first, frankincense is second, and I am a close third. But frankincense is one of those oils. It's known as the king of the aromatherapy world, and really it's one that you can use. If you don't know what to go to, you can go to it for anything. But for me, I take a couple of drops every day underneath my tongue. The balance it gives me, and I guess just that inner strength and fortitude, is amazing. It's also got really huge anti-inflammatory properties. So for those of you who have, look, any and all sickness comes from inflammation. That's the reality. So we all have inflammation of one kind or another in our bodies. Whether we're feeling it physically or not is a different matter. Sometimes we don't, but our illness does come from inflammation. So using frankincense, I find, just makes a massive difference. And apart from pushing myself a little bit hard just this last week or so and lost my voice and got a bit sort of kind of throaty, I haven't actually had a cold or a flu or been sick in 3.5 years since I started using the doTERRA products. And I used to catch my my yearly dose of whatever was going around, and I really feel it's made a massive difference for me to be able to support me in that. The next one I want to pass around is more due to, or more sort of for the physical health rather than the mental health, but it's lemon essential oil. It's a really basic one. Who likes to drink lemon in their water? Do you guys use the lemon essential oil or use lemons? The oil now, yeah, right. If you use lemons themselves, it's known now that they will take the enamel off your teeth slowly but surely over time. So using the lemon essential oil, which is from the rind of the essential oil, that doesn't happen. But one of the things that is particularly good, even for us men, but whenever I teach classes, intro classes to the girls, they always love the fact when I talk about lemon setting up the process of lipolysis in their bodies, which is fat burning, because I've never yet met a lady who doesn't like the idea of that. And interestingly enough, some of the ones that love it the most are the ones that are already about that skinny. So, but it is important, and we don't always live the most healthiest of lifestyles as far as our food intake and those kind of things. So I take, I use the lemon or lime in my water every day, and I actually find I drink more water because of it. Do you find that, Steve?
Yeah, I'm good.
You are now? Yeah.
One drop in a little bit of bottle.
Yep. Are you drinking more water now than you used to, or not?
Summertime I'll get more, but we do probably
not enough.
one cup and drink all the water in.
Yeah, that's right. Look, these days you talk to naturopaths and healthcare professionals, and they'll tell you that the amount of water that we should drink is probably a lot more than what we used to think it was. Everyone used to sort of say, oh, it's 8 glasses or 8 cups or it's 2 litres, but now the prevailing wisdom is that we need to drink 1 litre of water per 22 kilos of body weight. And when you look at that, I mean, for me, I'm about 87 kilos, so that's 4 litres a day. So that's a lot of water. Now, I don't drink 4 litres a day, but I do find, I would say I'll be easily, check us up to get his water, well done. But I do find that I get to my probably 2 litres a day easily now, where I was literally living a dehydrated life before, because I was drinking, you know, coffee and tea and things like that, and I wasn't having enough just water. And I enjoy drinking the water now, having it flavoured with the lemon, which is really nice. So I love the lemon for that. Plus, it's if you do drink it first thing in the morning, it certainly gets you going and being nice and regular, going to the bathroom every day. So it's probably a pretty good good thing from that perspective. One of the newer oils that doTERRA has, which I really do, I'm so grateful that this oil's come along, because I have never really been a massive fan of lavender. It just, I grow it, we've got it all around the house, and I like the actual flower scent, but as an essential oil I didn't really use it that much, and Vanessa was never a big fan either until she met the doTERRA lavender, which is much softer and milder than some of the others I smell. But the oil I'm passing around now is called petitgrain, and it has a lot of the same chemical makeup as lavender does, and it creates a lot of the same feelings and calming of the parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous system. So it is like lavender, very calming, very soothing, but it's not as sort of florally and flowery as lavender is. So from a man's perspective, it's something that you probably use a little bit better. Dr. Hill, our esteemed Chief Medical Officer at doTERRA, was saying at convention this year, just gone, about how, for those of you who have any blood pressure issues, how you can use that, just rubbing it into this area on the thumb, a drop each day to help regulate that, which I've been using it for that, because I do have a little bit of high blood pressure, and I've been using it, and I have a monitor that my doctor's given me, and I've had it for a couple of years now. I haven't had much of an issue with it. It's very mild, but I have noticed that it's actually, my levels are much more normal and in the better range now since I've been doing that, so that's nice to know. So that's been pretty helpful for me, just from a physical well-being perspective, and there are so many people out there who do have, you know, blood pressure and stuff that's as a result of just living in constant state of anxiety and stress that we all have. The last of the essential oils that I like for guys, just to be able to help support them as far as their mood is concerned and their emotional state, is a blend that doTERRA has. It's called Balance, and the reason I like it is that it's a blend that you don't have to go and try and make up your own blend yourself. It's just good and ready to go, and you can just get up in the morning. If you were to take your 2 drops of frankincense under your tongue and put a drop or 2 of this on your feet before you started your day and put your shoes on, your life will change dramatically. It makes such a big difference. Balance is not one to take internally, so don't follow the peppermint regime with the Balance. But it's such a nice scent. Everyone loves Balance. I don't know anyone who doesn't like it, but it's just such an easy way for men to be able to feel a little bit more in control of their emotions and their moods. Even though we maybe don't talk about them so much, and we haven't quite got there yet as a society to look after each other that well, at the very least we can take care of ourselves a little better. as we're going, and maybe not be so affected negatively by everything. I mentioned before about the Lifelong Vitality Pack, which is these 3 supplements here. So it comes as a pack together. For me, it was life-changing to start to use these. I was told that it would take me 2 or 3 months maybe till I felt a difference, so I should be prepared to give it a go for that long. I noticed the difference in 2 weeks, and I've rarely been away from it since that time, which is over 3 years ago now. The only time I might go away or something, and very rarely, but if I forget to take it, or actually I'm probably better at taking it when I'm away, because I've got my method of handling it now. So before I go away on a trip, I work out how many days I'm away for, and this little thing has all the days in there, and I put in my different supplements into each. That's Saturdays, and so I can't stuff it up now. So I'm better when I'm away probably than when I'm home, because at home I'm a little bit more relaxed. But I notice when I don't take it. If I don't take it for 3 or 4 days, I really notice it. How many of you take aloe vera? Oh, maybe nearly half. And have you noticed if you don't take it, what happens? Well, I'll ask the question, what does happen?
I got crook.
You got crook?
Yeah, straight away.
Yeah.
I find I don't sleep as well.
Yeah.
Interestingly enough.
It really is interesting. Yeah, absolutely. Do you take any of the other supplements as well as aloe vera? Or no?
I take Deep Blue every day as well.
Yep.
And then Motomax and DDR.
Okay, awesome.
Way more hungry if you don't take it as well.
You're
Like
more
you
hungry?
feel hungry, yeah.
Yep.
Hungry, yeah.
Yep. Okay, well that's interesting. I haven't heard that one before. That is interesting. They really do work so well. I mean, the reality is that we know these days is that the nutrition that our body needs is not even in our soil anymore. So it's not in our food for us to have whole and complete nutrition. And all of the essential, vitamins, minerals, and nutrients that our body needs, and the essential part of that, by the way, means that the body can't make them themselves. They're essential to be brought into our system for optimal health. And if we're not getting it in our food intake, then we do need something to be able to support it. And I met the scientist who crafted the supplements for doTERRA, and a couple of things that are interesting about them. Number one is that of all the supplement range of things that you can go and buy in a pharmacy, say front of house, so front of the prescription counter that you can just buy and leave with, more than 90% of those products are not registered with the TGA and don't do what they say or claim that they might do, because they haven't been proven to do so. But the doTERRA products are registered with the Therapeutic Goods Administration of Australia, so they are evaluated for the claims that they make and what we can get out of them. So that's something that I really appreciate, that doTERRA's gone to the length and breadth to do that. But what they have done in formulating this range is making sure that they reach the max bioavailable amount of each of the vitamins, minerals and nutrients that our body needs to be able to perform optimally and be in homeostasis, be in good health. So rather than being something where it's over-supplementation of something that's so ridiculously off the scale and ending up as expensive urine, and a situation where you're literally peeing out your money, basically, they've actually worked out exactly how much you need to match a normal Western diet. Now, I'm sure our Western diets do vary, but within a range, they're aiming to get it into that target range, rather than us being under-supplemented or under-nutritioned, as a good word, that nutrition, do you like that? Or way over in anything. We're really hitting it right around the mark, and they've patented the amount of that to be able to provide something that isn't available elsewhere on the market. So I love it from that perspective. I have noticed the same thing. I couple it with DDR Prime, which is a cellular health complex, and as well as Mito 2 Max for you to sleep better because of it. One of the things I found really interesting about the Mito 2 Max is the energy and stamina complex. So this is designed to help work at a cellular level to stimulate your mitochondria to be able to perform. They're the engine room of our body as far as energy is concerned inside of our cells. But one of the ingredients in this stamina and energy complex is ashwagandha root, and the ashwagandha root is known to be able to help people who suffer from sleep disorders, including insomnia. So yeah, I find it very interesting that an energy and stamina complex will also help you sleep. But what I find in my experience with it is that I get a nice sustained release of energy right throughout the day, so I'm getting that ability to just keep going all day, and I don't find that flat spot hits me nearly as hard as it used to. I don't find that 2 or 3 o'clock thing really as challenging as an experience it used to be. But I also find that when it comes time to go to bed, I fall asleep really quickly, I stay asleep well, and I wake up feeling good. How many of you wake up in the morning feeling absolutely amazing and ready to attack the day, like tons of energy and you're all good? One, two, couple of hands, but it's not many. But we actually have gotten used to, no joke, we live our lives in that fight-flight kind of response. We're so much in stress and anxiety that all of our energy that our body does produce is sent always to our extremities, because we're so used to living in stress and anxiety, and the stress and anxiety that we used to have, you know, thousands of years ago was getting chased by some huge animal that was going to eat us. But now we've still created an environment. I mean, who feels completely relaxed and carefree in their life? I mean, not many people. We have created this environment, this life that we live. It's very stressful, and our energy that should be there for growth and repair is actually always at our extremities of our body, and it's just mirroring that fight kind of response that we used to have, which is why we always feel that same way in the morning. We kind of get up and we drag ourselves off to the coffee machine or whatever it is. We don't put our feet on the floor to feel great, but since I've been using these products, I have so much more energy. I can perform at this time of the night the same as I can at 6 in the morning. It doesn't make any difference for me anymore, and I really like that about it. But coupled with that, I'm still getting great sleep. I'm not wired, you know, and not being able to sleep, and my mind's racing and all those kind of things. So if I had one wish for men out there, it would be that they would use the Lifelong Vitality Pack. That is really my one wish for men. If they did nothing else and they didn't want to get to try essential oils, or they didn't think that was for them, or they thought that was too girly or too hippie or too something, then I would love them to be able to start off with that. And I think it's within the paradigm that men can kind of swallow as far as healthcare is concerned, pardon the pun. But we do, you know, we can take a pill and we can rub a cream on ourselves because we've got a painful knee or something like that, whereas we might not necessarily go to, naturally anyway, it's just yet, to a box of essential oils to find our solution there. But we do have the ability to use these products, and a lot of the essential oils are in the supplement range, which is amazing. Moving on from that, sleep. Who has an issue with sleep? Who sleeps well? Every day, every night. Who has an issue falling off to sleep at any time? You? And who wakes up during the night sometimes and finds it difficult to go back to sleep? Oh, that's more common. Yeah. And sometimes, like, it's probably around when you go to the bathroom or something, because you wake up naturally, but then your mind starts racing and you start thinking about everything and all the problems of the world that you've got to solve before morning comes, and wondering why you haven't solved them all yet. But there are a few things that you can use for it that I find helps. With us travelling so much, time zones are a bit of an issue sometimes with us, so I've found I've started using a couple of the doTERRA essential oils to help. A good friend of mine, he came here several months ago and he had pain in his body, and I was just talking to him about, you know, Deep Blue and the rub, and he used some on his body. But he was really interested in the pain. He got so much relief from that. He rang back the next day and said, "I want to get some of that stuff," because I gave him some to take home. And he ended up getting a Home Essentials kit, which is basically the 10 basic oils that doTERRA has to start with as a kit. And he started diffusing Easy Air, so breathe, and along with lavender, because it's in the kit, to calm him and to create the ability to just breathe a little bit more clearly during the night time. Thanks, Trace. And he rang me up, and this guy rings me up to say, let's go out for a beer or let's go to the footy. He doesn't ring me up to talk about anything else. He sure as hell is not the guy who rings you up to talk about essential oils. But he rang me up and he goes, "Paul, I've got to tell you, these essential oils, they're amazing." He goes, "I'm sleeping so well," he says, "but more importantly," he says, "I'm not snoring." And that was his benefit from it. And I really love this particular story because I've known them a long time, this family, and they've got 2 young boys, and Lisa, his wife, is pretty much deaf. She wears hearing aids in both ears. So she's never been able to take her hearing aids out to avoid the snoring because they've got 2 young boys, and she wants to hear them if there's something going on. For any of you who've got kids, you need that ability to hear them. So, and she is the mother, and when he sleeps, he passes out. It's all over. So he's not going to hear them. But for the very first time in her life now, she can sleep well because she hasn't been able to sleep well for years. I mean, the kids are 10 and 8 now. So she can now sleep well, but leave her hearing aids in, so if the boys need her, she can hear her. And I just think it's such a win, you know. So he rang me up to tell me that story, and I thought it was pretty funny considering he's usually the kind of one that says, let's go to the footy or let's go and meet for a beer or something like that. But that was all he rang to tell me. Didn't even invite me for a beer after that, mind you. So, for those of you who do experience challenge with sleep, there is an oil that Vanessa calls the horse tranquilizer of the aromatherapy kingdom. I'm coming to like it more and more, I suppose, but from a smell perspective, I initially shied away from vetiver. It's from the root of a grass that grows in Haiti, and if you smell it, I think it smells like dirt. I think it smells like. So when we're passing around, you know, these other nice smelling oils, when you get to vetiver, it's a big departure from the rest of them that smell very nice. But it really does work amazingly, and the way to use this is just one drop at a time on your big toe, either foot, and it really is good night Irene. Like when I take it and use it, I sleep so well, and I sleep so deeply. I have quite vivid dreams actually when I use vetiver. Who's found that using vetiver? You guys find that? Yeah. So it's a pretty interesting experience. I sometimes wake up and say, "Oh, Leslie, I've got to tell you about this dream I've had." And she goes, "I don't want to hear about your sordid bloody dreams." And I go, "Not one of those dreams, I just remember it really well." Because I do wake up and, often when you dream, you kind of wake up and it's a bit elusive, you can't quite remember it, and you know you've had a dream, but what was it about? Or when you use vetiver, you do remember. We flew from LA to Brisbane a few months ago, and we were luckily enough, we were able to use some of our points, so we were in the front end of the plane instead of the back end of the plane, which was a very nice experience, I must tell you, when you're travelling on a long flight like that. And I hadn't experienced it before on a long flight like that, but they give you pyjamas and all these things at the start of the flight, so you change out of your clothes, and I was there in my little black ninja pyjama suit, and I was all relaxed and ready, and I bring this onto the plane, and in here literally there is another bottle of vetiver because I don't travel anywhere without it. And I took my socks off and I put this on my foot. There's a guy across the aisle from me and he's looking at me putting this stuff on, and I was putting On Guard on my throat. And he goes, what are you doing? And I said, "Oh, I put this on my foot to help me go to sleep." And he goes, "Oh, what is it?" And I explained it. It's essential oil and, you know, how they work, and they quickly get into the bloodstream within about 6 seconds, putting on the soles of your feet, and you know. And he goes, "Oh, can I try something?" I said, "Yeah, sure." So I gave it to him, and I thought, you know, I hope it works, because he said, I travel for work all the time. He said, "I've never, ever slept on a plane, not even for 1 minute." He goes, "I can't sleep on the plane." So, okay. So I gave it to him, and I think they had the meal service, and then I went to sleep. And then about 6 hours later, I woke up, which is about my max for sleeping on a plane, and because even the lay down bits aren't quite long enough for me. But I looked across at him after I woke up, and he's sitting there watching movies. And I thought, shit, it didn't work for him, right? So I asked him, I said, "Oh, how'd you go? Did you not sleep at all?" And he goes, "I slept 5 hours straight." He said, "I've never, ever slept on a plane." He goes, "Where can I buy that stuff? And does it come in a bigger bottle?" So I said, "No, it doesn't, but it's, there's 250 drops in there, so if you have a problem sleeping and you can use 1 drop a night, that's, you know, kind of more than 2/3 of your year taken care of as far as getting some better sleep." And he was like, "Yeah, I'm having that, give it to me." So routinely we kind of end up enrolling someone on a long haul flight, because it's, well, you've got to cap your voice, they can't even escape, can they? And as far as sleep's concerned, snorers, ladies, how many of you have a partner who snores? Yeah, most. Some. Men, how many of you have a partner who snores? I just found out something about Narelle that I didn't know before. No.
It's not snoring, it's purring.
I was going to say, were you here in that class? I think it was Richard that said that, wasn't it? He goes, when men do it, it's snoring. He says, "But I believe when women do it, it's called purring." And I thought, you're such a suck, mate. Come on. You know. Missing one there. But peppermint, there it is. But a drop of the thyme essential oil, that's what's going around now on your big toe also, is amazing to help with snoring and just alleviate that. And if it doesn't wipe out altogether, the experience that we have from the many and from the masses so far is that it certainly winds it back and dials it down to a level that means that the person laying next to you's got a decent chance of a good night's sleep. So I think it's well worth using. It's great, it's a food grade oil, so you can put it into food like you would use any other herb. Obviously it's one that you want to take care of. It's quite a hot sort of an oil, so be mindful about where you end up getting that. So that's one where you take care of your pits and your bits type stuff. But it works really great for that. How many of you have any issue with pain in your body anywhere? Anyone? Quite a few. I mean, even if you get it as young guys training and that kind of stuff, I mean, some of the pain you get is self-induced, right? Or playing footy, if you're still playing, Michael. Definitely. But a lot of the bumps and bruises and things that you get, I mean, you know, maybe they're not just from age, but I find, and you're going to find this too, is that I played so much sport when I was young, but already I'm, you know, experiencing the, you know, the negative side effect of that with a little bit of age. I do wake up sometimes in the morning and go, oh God, you know, and I played every sport. I grew up in a small country town. There was nothing else to do. So I did everything from footy to badminton, cricket, softball, anything that was going. If it had a ball involved, we did it. And a lot of martial arts as well, and a lot of hyperextending in my knees and joints and things like that. And I wasn't really as well trained and good at it as I should have been at those younger ages. When it affects your body when you're still growing and maturing. But I find now when I do have it is that this is so my favourite, and for most of you blokes out there who use the doTERRA products already, you would already be using this, right? Who uses it? Yeah, everyone. Look, along with my oils, when I travel, like I take my LLV, I take my oils and I take a tube of this everywhere I go. I never travel without it. Because, you know, when you're sleeping on foreign beds and pillows in airplanes and all that kind of stuff, you end up with all sorts of little quick necks and things like that. But I love the Deep Blue Rub. It's just something that it's so much more powerful and produces such a much better result for me than using something like the traditional sports creams. I think it's got like one of those on steroids, really. The power in it is that one bottle of this Ice Blue essential oil, which is a blend containing a range of essential oils that are good to work with pain in the body, like wintergreen. One whole bottle of that is in that tube. So it's a high menthol based cream with this whole bottle in it. And it will remind you very much of, you know, locker room kind of smell. Someone actually said to me the other day, and I've never heard this, I think this was at your class, Jared, someone was diffusing Ice Blue. And I thought, wow, I've never heard anyone diffusing it, but they said it's very enlivening, and I imagine it would be. So it would certainly keep you awake, but it's amazing for pain. So if any of you suffer that, there's a layering method that we use with the essential oils to help with pain, starting out with frankincense, which we had out before. So wherever the pain is, as long as it's not one of those kind of parts that I've told you to avoid putting essential oils, you know, a drop of frankincense, put on some of the Ice Blue cream, and my ratio for using that is a piece about the size of a pea of the cream to cover an area about the size of your hand is more than enough. Anything more than that and it's probably a waste, because it does go a long way. And then one drop of the Ice Blue oil on top of that, and it's amazing the response that you get working both with the pain, I guess, from the cream and the Ice Blue oil side, but the frankincense working from an anti-inflammatory standpoint is amazing. So I love it. So if you're doing all those sports type activities, or you just have pain in your body from being, you know, having old war injuries, that's what I call them. It's like, I got old and it wore out. So if you've got any of those, then use it for that. One of the products I also refer to with the pain and things that people sometimes experience is the Deep Blue Polyphenol Complex. It really is like, it is so amazing, like as a painkiller. Who's using it? I'm using it, and you guys are using it, but I actually take that every day now. It's almost like a preventative thing for me. I just, you know, if I have it with my Lifelong Vitality Pack, I take these three. I take my DDR Prime, my Mito 2 Max, and that's kind of my daily regime, along with as good as a diet I can have, as well as my fair share of red wine because I want to. And you know, you've got to have something that brings us joy, right? That we enjoy. So that's it from the pain perspective. The thing to be very careful of with that Ice Blue Rub is it definitely is not one you want to put on near any of the private bits. I always like telling the story because I just can't believe that someone ever made this mistake. But one of the guys that we know, it was he gets up in the morning and he feels that pain in his body. So he's taken to putting the ice blue rub on straight away in the morning as he wakes up and puts it straight on the sore butts and shoulders and things like that. And it just kind of warms him up very quickly and gets his ability to be able to move freely going quite quickly in the day. So that's what he does. And he keeps it in the bedstand by his bed there. And one night he and his wife were having an adult's enjoyable evening, and he reached over to get what he thought was a tube of something else, but he got the ice blue rub and proceeded to put it on himself and on her in the areas that we said it shouldn't go. And it was end of romance for the evening. So if you can imagine, and then to make adult insult to injury, probably give you some safety, I guess, information now. They went and jumped in the shower. So that I was burning, I'll go and jump in the shower. But when you have essential oils and you experience that, that just kind of spreads it around, okay? So if you want to calm something down, or you make the mistake of, and look, I think we've all done it, those of us who use essential oils already, we've used peppermint or something and had it on your hand, and then just rub your eye like that, and it's like, oh. So you do make these mistakes, and if you do that, carrier oil, coconut oil, or whatever you have in your home, if you've got olive oil or something like that, rub that on the area, and that will calm it down faster than anything else will. So don't make the mistake of running full water, because this guy did, or this people did, and they're still together, by the way. So it's probably one of those good stories that they'll tell their grandkids maybe one day in the future. Maybe. Maybe not. But anyways. Yeah.
What's the like the science, I guess, behind that layering technique?
Look, is it science? I think it's something that more Vanessa has sort of driven than anything else, and it's more experiential knowledge than anything. A couple of things. Look, with the essential oils, one of the things to be mindful of is if you put them on your body neat, most of the essential oils are safe to put on your body neat. But we don't recommend it. We recommend to dilute them, and a couple of reasons for it. One is if you put the oils onto your body neat, up to 70% of it flashes or evaporates off. So you're not getting full therapeutic value of each drop of essential oil unless you either put it on with heat transfer, which means friction, so rub it like that, or to have something that's going to help you bond the essential oil into your skin, and thereby allowing more of the essential oil molecules to enter your bloodstream and go into the body and do their work. So the ice blue cream serves that purpose. Okay, so putting the frankincense with that and then the ice blue oil on top of it works to be able to do that, like a carrier oil would. And of course you probably do get the friction part of it as well, because you're putting creams on, you're gonna rub it in, right? So that's the reason for it. But the anti-inflammatory thing, along with the ability to kind of work with the pain part of things, I think is very important, because for a lot of people, their pain stems from that. It stems from that inflammation that they have for whatever reason, whether it's a sports-related thing or an injury, or it's just, you know, sort of overwork over time. So that's why it works, and Vanessa has been talking about that and teaching on that since for as long as I can remember. But I have had so many people have great experience with it. That same friend of mine that I was talking about with the snoring and his wife, Lisa, the reason when he was here, he had an accident just recently, a few months before, and his hand was stuck like, you know, probably something about that big. He could only close his hand to that far. He couldn't open it fully, and he couldn't close it any more than about there. And he used to wake up every night in pain that seized. And he'd been having all the physio and doing all the things he could do, but he wasn't getting any improvement from there. They'd got about as good as it was going to get. And when he was over that day, I gave him, I put that on just like that, frankincense, ice blue rub, and the ice blue oil. While we were just talking, I said, put it on there and see if it makes a difference, mate. And within about 15 minutes, he could close his hand down to about there. He couldn't make a tight fist around him, but he could close his hand further, and he was just amazed at you know, what it did for him. But I'm also aware that he really is the quintessential Aussie bloke. You know, I mean, he works in sheet metal and, you know, goes to the footy and drinks beer, and I didn't think he was going to get into using essential oils really, but I did offer him up. The tube that I had was probably about half empty. I said, if I give this to you, will you actually put it on? Will you use it? And he said yes, so I gave it to him. And he rang me up a couple of days later. Actually, I think it was like a Sunday afternoon, and we had a class here, a men's class, on the Tuesday night, and he came. And he was late, and he ended up sitting right there in the front, and he was embarrassed that he had to walk in afterwards, and the only chair left was right where you are, so he had to sit there. But he's not a public speaker by any stretch, but he couldn't help when I got to the last blue point to stand up and share his story, you know, with people about that. And he stood up and he went, look at this, you know, he didn't make a hard fist, but he could close it. And it was only a few days of using that. So it's just such a big change for him. And so I love that difference it can make, especially when people have been, like a lot of us have had a great experience with an essential oil or with a doTERRA product, with an issue that we've already been trying to solve with lots of other ways, with lots of other methods. We've been trying to find an answer and we haven't found it. And we hear so many of these great stories now where people are using something totally natural that is not going to become addictive for them, although some of you would argue that your essential oils are certainly something you don't want to give up anymore. But they don't have an addictive quality in that you have to have it. You might want it, but that's not the same as being addicted to it. Immunity is one of the things that this is a particular time of year where people sort of tend to kind of crash a little bit and they challenge with their immune system. There's a couple of things that I love to use. The On Guard essential oil blend is one that Vanessa calls this one Christmas in a bottle, and when you smell it you'll understand why. But I don't travel anywhere without it. When I'm getting on the planes, I literally, before I fly, I rub it on there. So I've got my little ritual. I go in and sit down and, you know, get myself all set up with my book and my this and my that. And in this little case is also my On Guard, and that is one of the things that goes straight onto my throat before I fly, because you are in that environment of recycled air and you've got all these people about that far away from you, kind of like you're sitting right now. That's economy class over there, by the way. And you've got people breathing all over you, and it's just such an amazing thing. And until last week, when I just sort of felt that I'd kind of crashed a little bit and probably gone a little bit too hard for a little too long, I hadn't had anything even resembling something come along to keep me down in about 3 years. So it's been amazing for me. But I use the On Guard along with the On Guard drops. Anyone feel free if they'd like to try an On Guard throat drop. I use them as a definite preventative thing, when I'm getting onto planes. But at the moment I find, maybe just to feel a little bit of a scratch in the throat or a tickle kind of come, I go straight for the On Guard. And I actually put it in my water bottle with my lemon or lime if I'm feeling that, and I'm just sipping it throughout the day, and it just puts an end to those things. And for those that kind of have been around me in my life, like Tanya for the last few years, she would know me as someone prior to that who used to push myself too hard and end up with, if there was something to be caught, I would catch it, right? But now I don't seem to suffer. I feel so much better, so it's been amazing. If you do succumb, men, to those seasonal threats, and I can speak compliantly about this disease, it's called man flu. So, seems it's not a real disease. And many of our ladies think that our flus aren't nearly as bad or as good or as drastic as their flus. So, but if you do succumb and you find yourself wanting to crawl under the doona or back under the bed covers, one of the best things you can do is the oil I'm passing around now, it's oregano, and you can just take a drop of that and rub that on the soles of your feet. I put it with that and the On Guard as well on the soles of my feet, and just put the socks on and carry on, basically.
So that's the flu.
Man flu, I say.
Man flu.
got to be compliant here. But if you look, it's just any of those seasonal threats where you feel yourself, your immune system is compromised and you're down, and you're kind of at the almost down and out stage as far as being able to show up and present in life and do what you normally do. Then this is just a great way to. I look at it kind of hyper-metabolises whatever you're going through. If I'm going to catch something, this just seems to get me screaming through it super quick, and I'm on my feet and ready to go so quickly. Or at the very least, or it doesn't progress. Like I get something and I feel like, I've got a bit of a throat, I feel it going on, and it just stops in its tracks before it goes anywhere. But that's one of the powers of the essential oils that, once we come to understand the science more, you take an essential oil and you apply it to your skin, and it's inside your bloodstream in 6 seconds. And within 20 seconds, it's working amongst the cells, and a lot of the essential oils have the ability to permeate the cell membranes themselves and work inside the cells. So, when you look at that, at the ability of something that's natural to be able to work so quickly and effectively and target the area of your body that it needs to work in at that microscopic level, it's such a tool to be able to have, because everything else that we take, and typically, I was at the convention in Europe a couple of months ago, and one of doTERRA's scientists there was giving me some information to explain about why essential oils work so effectively, and I loved it because it was simple and I could understand it. So he said, look, a lot of the molecules that we take, even traditional medication type, the size of the molecules, you would liken that to something like the size of a basketball, if you like, and essential oil molecules are comparatively about the size of a tennis ball. And he says, and because of that difference in size of the molecules, that's why they're able to be able to pass through the barriers and get into our body and get into areas so quickly and so effectively that a lot of the stuff, like even just bigger molecules that we might find in other medicines or even in just sugar and things like that, that don't pass into those areas as effectively. And that's why they work so powerfully. And I thought, oh, I get that. I can explain that to people. And I also like listening to Dr. Hill, but I do walk out after 4 hours going, what's a sesquiterpene, and and what's all this about? But he boiled it down to something really simple that I could understand, and I think that's the power of these. They're something that if you can explain it simply like that, people get it and go, oh, right, that makes sense. Yeah, I can see why it would work for me. Apart from that, probably one of the last areas that I do use the essential oils for every day is just part of my grooming routine, I guess. I've never liked using aftershaves and alcohol-based kind of things for my body, so I would always shy away from those and pretty much stick with just a deodorant and that's it. But I do like having something that sort of makes me smell a little good, and I've taken to doing. Actually, Ben, you want to come, mate? We could film you again for this. No, yeah. you don't have to. So, but there is a good video of me doing this, and there's a very good video of Ben doing this. In fact, his is way better than mine because I was fully clothed when I did mine. Ben, however, might not have been. So, but Vanessa teaches aromatic dressing, and that's really putting the essential oils on your body every day as part of your regime of taking care of yourself. But I'm aware that men probably aren't going to slow down and take the time to do that. But even for me, if I am in a little bit of a rush and I don't have the time to go through the ritual, the routine, which Vanessa definitely does find time. I mean, she doesn't just teach this, she does it morning and night, every day. She does the whole thing. But I might just grab some and just flash it, and I just rub it on my chest and I rub it through my hair and that kind of stuff. And at least I have the oils on me, I'm feeling the difference, and it does make a difference for me to do that. But I do have a favourite blend that I have made up, and I just have it in a little bottle that's just a roller bottle that I can just put on, and that's about the extent of it. And I rub it on and I'm out the door. So it's kind of as quick as that for me. Feel free to have a smell, but it's a couple of my favourite oils. My favourite by far is Hawaiian sandalwood, and I have 3 parts of that, 2 parts frankincense and 1 part arbor vitae is what's going to go around now. But I put that blend together and I started wearing it, and I thought guys would like it because it's kind of a earthy sort of manly smell for those of you blokes that have smelled it already. But to my great surprise, I thought the guys would like it, and they did, but it was the women who loved it. So it was a really interesting experience to have so many women saying, oh my God, you smell so good, because I'm used to everyone saying that to my wife. So now I hear that quite often when I go around. So if you like getting that kind of response, then this is a good blend for you to use. And it's really easy as well, that whole rollerball type thing, and just to have those few essential oils that you like, and it can be anything that you're drawn to yourself. But just as part of my little kind of grooming regime, which I must say is kind of minimal, like it is for most blokes probably, but it does work, and it does have an effect. You do feel different straight away. I notice when I don't put it on compared to when I do. When I do, I feel like, wow, yes. I feel good. I feel, particularly with using, I think, the frankincense, just grounded, really grounded, and the arbor vitae is the same. Actually, I'll pass the arbor vitae around. This is an oil that comes from a tree that's used in America. It's a kind of a huge old growth kind of tree that they use for high-end timber. But the byproduct is a lot of wood chips and those kind of things, and it was just creating a waste scenario where these were not being used. So doTERRA has partnered with them to use the wood chips, the waste, to be able to create this essential oil for us. And it's a hugely antiviral, antifungal property oil. that tree, when it's growing, is a tree that nothing else grows on. No parasites, no fungus, no nothing can grow on that tree. So it has those same properties in the oil. So when you put it on yourself, it's great for those kind of things, particularly for people who have any of those sort of things, maybe on their feet or whatever. It's really powerful for that. But it's a very strong scent. So that's why in my blend I make it the one where it's in that bottle I put 4 drops of Aromatic, 8 of frankincense and 12 of Hawaiian sandalwood, and I fill the rest up with coconut oil. But it's important that you just find something that you like for yourself, I think, and the Aromatic is very strong, so it overpowers things if you put it in equal parts with the other oils. So, yeah. Any queries or questions at all? Yeah.
Different things, how some you're putting on the back of your neck behind your ears, others you're putting on your toes and whatnot. Does it, the actual area of application, is there a hole, is it overly important? Or?
It isn't overly important. The oils do find their way into your body systems to where they need to go anyway, so you'll get their benefit anyway. So as an example, if you couldn't reach the area where you were experiencing pain, maybe it was high in your shoulder blade area or something like that, one of the areas that we teach to put the oil is just at the base of the spine here, and you can put those oils here and just rub them here, and they find their way to where you need the benefit. So it's not totally important for that, but there are some entry points in the body where the essential oils, the uptake is faster, is better. So the soles of the feet, there's a couple of reasons why we would suggest that. Number one is that the skin there is thicker and tougher generally, so you're less likely to, if you're going to have any reaction, to have it there. But also the pores on the skin of the feet are bigger, basically, the holes. So uptake of the oil is faster. So welcome. Any other questions? Yeah, okay.
Did you start with full dosage on the LLV?
Yeah, I did. But what I've come down to now is that I just take the morning dose. I don't take it in the evening hour, and I have found no diminished benefit for me. So. But that said, I do have a wife who is very much into organic, biodynamic, whole food, as much raw as possible, and we don't have too much meat. And, I mean, Vanessa doesn't eat any, of course, but my son and I and my daughter has a little bit. But so we eat a pretty good diet anyway. So I think that I can probably get away. I'm getting good nutrition. Vanessa is, for those of you who know her, all over, getting good balanced meals into us and making sure we eat well. But even when we're travelling and Vanessa's maybe not cooking and not preparing all the meals, I've found that it's just so long as I stick with at least that one dose in the morning every day. So I have that every morning, and I don't take them at night, ever. So, but I used to. But I only did it for the first few months, and then I just sort of, I didn't do it on purpose, I just kind of naturally fell into forgetting to take them at night or whatever, or maybe you're busy or you're out teaching a class or whatever. And for me, I've got to have probably a whole glass of water to get through that. So I didn't want to just be having this big glass of water and all these kind of capsules late at night. So I just fell out of the habit of taking it at night time, and it hasn't had any diminished, output for me as far as what I get out of them. So I like it. But yeah, that's what I think is great. Has that been helpful?
Mm-hmm.
Any more questions, queries?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The small one in the middle.
This one?
No, sorry, on the right, yeah.
Yeah.
What is that again?
This
is cellular.
That's gold.
It's gold. Look, I've got some notes about it that I usually forget to share about this one, but our bodies suffer a lot from oxidative stress from all the free radicals that we have in our body. And this is basically designed to work at a cellular level to work against that, so to reduce the oxidative stress on our cells and improve our response to those free radicals. So, when our body works optimally, it's able to deal with those free radicals very efficiently. But for a lot of us, that's not the case. We just don't have the nutrition, we don't have the intrinsic strength in our systems to be able to deal with it all efficiently. So we end up succumbing to stress. And look, make no mistake, germs and bugs don't make you sick. Stress makes you sick. It's your stress response that allows you to be weakened and succumb to the things like the oxidative stress and the free radicals that enter our system. So this works to basically assist with that. So, I mean, to the extent that while we were at the convention in Amsterdam a couple of months ago, all of doTERRA's sort of head honchos as far as the medical science side of things were there, and they were on a panel and they were asked what is the one product that they would not do without if they could have anything. Of all of the doTERRA range, everything. And without any exception, every single one of them shows either LLV, but more of them shows DDR prime as the one product that they would not do without anything. And you know, I can see why. And the Lifetime Vitality Pack's only been in Australia since April. We've had to previously order this from the US until it was able to be approved by the TGA here, and that's kind of a slow and costly process to get to that point. However, DDR prime has been in our market for quite a while, and I do know a lot of the women in our team have been taking DDR for quite a long time and experiencing amazing results from it. But I take it, and I've been taking that combo from the very beginning, and I added the other ones afterwards. So I couldn't tell you personally which one of these does more for me, but some of the ladies here may have been taking, or guys been taking DDR prime before they started LLV. Has anybody done that? The adults, yeah. You were?
Yeah.
And what did you find? How did you feel with DDR prime?
Yeah, I find for me, and my kids take it as well.
Yep.
And I think it actually helps balance their moods a lot as well.
Yep.
So I know it's working on the physical sense, but I think for us as well, because it's got the frankincense in it,
Yep.
it's definitely helping from a balanced mood point of view.
Yep.
as well.
Well, those oils do work very, and there's a lot of science to prove now how much they work with mental acuity, you know, with your mental strength and ability that way as well. So not just from a physical standpoint. Yeah, it's very powerful, and it's interesting watching now all of the science that's happening in some of the best research facilities in the world, like Johns Hopkins University in the States is doing studies using doTERRA's essential oils and studying things like pain. And at the moment there's a study going on by one of the facilities using lemongrass and black pepper. And I was talking to Dr. Hill while we were away recently, and he said the early experience from that is that it's at least as effective or more than a lot of the painkillers that are commonly available. So it's going to be interesting to see what the final results of that study are. But they've also been testing a couple of doTERRA's essential oils on with Johns Hopkins University on gram-negative and gram-positive bacteria. Those bacteria are the ones that are responsible for the kind of diseases that you have to have vaccinations before you go to a country where you might contract that disease. And if you haven't taken the vaccinations, they don't let you come home. So things like typhoid and you know, yellow fever is a classic example, and I think I have to make a decision about having that because we're supposed to go to Africa later on this year. But they have been working with that, and what they're finding is that if you do contract any of those kind of diseases, the methods of treatment that we've had are becoming less and less useful. Like, you know, they're being able to deal with our ability to fight them is becoming diminished. So those bugs are becoming those superbugs that they talk about, I guess. But they've isolated a couple of compounds in some of doTERRA's essential oils that have become very, very effective in combating that, more effective than anything else that they have currently. And the compound is called Nerol, and it is found in frankincense, but more in lemongrass, and lemongrass is a fairly readily available essential oil from a cost standpoint. It's very, very available, and a lot of people can get access to it. And they're finding that it's working very effectively with that, and they're releasing studies on that as well, which I'm interested in to see. So a lot of work is being done to prove out the the efficacy of the essential oils as well. So, which I like because for me, being the guy kind of that does this, Vanessa is very good at talking to everybody about their emotions, and that's her passion with the essential oils. Although she loves using them in food, her passion is the emotional state. But it's great to see how much work is being done to physically prove out how these essential oils are working. And Johns Hopkins actually went to the extent to try and isolate that compound so that they might be able to obviously create something that's patentable and sellable from a profit standpoint, and Dr. Hill's very well versed in all the essential oils and why they work, and he said it won't work. He said you can isolate the compound, but then when you use the isolated compound on the bugs, he says it's not going to be effective. He says, and they said, well, why? How can you say that? How do you know that? And he said, well, I know that they're complex chemical structures, and it's the synergy of them working together that has the impact. It's not any one compound by itself. He says, that's what I know about essential oils, but do it anyway, and he made a bet with them that he'd be right, and he was right. Once they isolated the compound, it didn't kill the bug, it wasn't effective. So it's really interesting to see that amount of effort is going into proving out the veracity of essential oils, but also that it's the essential oils by themselves that are doing it. It's not any one compound in there that can be isolated out, that can be patented and created into a medication that a pharmaceutical company can sell to the masses, which I think is empowering for everyone, because it's something that then it's available in nature. The answer is there, and we can all access it relatively fairly. Except for obviously we have some lower socio-economic groups in our community, but doTERRA's mission is to find ways through that and to be able to get essential oils into every home eventually. And they work very much in developing countries to do that as well, not just in first world countries like ours where we can afford them. So that's great. Jared?
I had a question the other night from somebody that came to the class about, and I guess I'm asking you for an answer to somebody that asked about the fear of taking these oils internally, and what, if we don't know that they're doing anything to us or something. Is there any simple scientific answer that you can say, look, it's safe?
There's different schools of thought around it, and some people are very vehement in their desire for us not to be teaching that it isn't safe. But there isn't any evidence to the contrary. But what we do know is that there are historically a number of different schools of aromatherapy teaching, and some teach one way and have been doing it for a long time effectively and safely, and there's another school who didn't ever teach that way. But we also know that just like men and women and everything, not all of us are created equal, and all essential oils are not created equal. You can go to Walmart in the US and you can buy frankincense, lavender and peppermint. They're all $6. All of them. How can that be? Now we know how hard it is to harvest frankincense and to get it, and how much of an effort and time it takes, and it is rare by the mere fact that it's not available everywhere. It doesn't grow everywhere. So how can that be available unless it's been adulterated, diluted, synthetic, sort of things added, those kind of things. And of course, in the case where that's happening, you definitely should not ingest those things, because those synthetics often they're not made to be ingested at all. But we know about our essential oils, and we know doTERRA has the most stringent testing regime that exists for essential oils, to the extent that if you wish to, now you can go to the Source to You website and you can type in the batch number of the bottle of oil that you hold in your hand and get the test results for the bottle that you bought. Not a batch that was tested that you may or may not have some of, but the batch that you have in your hand, you can get the test results for its purity. Which I just think is so good that it's so open book like that. And they're looking at adding more of the testing they do, because doTERRA does a whole battery of tests. It's not just the gas chromatograph test. There are a lot of tests that they're doing, and they're looking at adding more of the information to be available about the testing to us on that site, which is exciting. But I think it sets us apart from a perspective of purity, and people then obviously can take their own decision about whether they want to take them internally. But it's frankincense every day. I do it. So, yeah, check it.
Are there any oils that you should avoid for high blood pressure?
Peppermint is one that they say to be mindful of not using too much of if you have that. So it's something that you do need to be a little bit mindful of going too hard with that. Almost all of the oils don't have contraindications, but you can do your own research. I mean, obviously, there's so much available now, and I started trying to read some research before I taught my first men's class on some of the oils that I like to use. But the amount there is to read of published scientific information on essential oils is now too much. I mean, you couldn't read it all. It's mind-boggling. But you can Google specific things and say, you know, this and that, you know, which ones that, and it tells you. So I guess take your own advice, because I'm not in a position to be able to give you medical advice on it, but that's one of the things they say. Yeah.
With the usage of any of these oils, over long term, is the effect diminished or diluted because your body is becoming used to,
Yeah, it's a really good question. So far, all the prevailing wisdom is the answer to that question is no, which is really interesting. We don't get diminished effect from using it, so it's not like our body is developing, you know, an immunity to its effect, if you like. So, that's the prevailing wisdom, and smarter minds than me are the ones that are proving that out. But that's what they tell us. So, and my personal experience is that it has not had any reduced effect. If I use, you know, vetiver, you know, one night, and I start maybe need to use it a lot because I'm not sleeping, because I'm travelling, or I come home and I'm jet lagged, or whatever the case may be, I don't get diminished effect. But I also then, once I sort of stabilise back into my normal routine, I don't require it to sleep. So it's not like my body and my system is saying, well, now that you've given me that, I have to have that to be able to, which is what happens with things like sleeping pills. People do get that, you know, that requirement for it. Then, you know, they find themselves not being able to get back to that normal balanced state of getting into that restful time of the evening and go off to sleep. So that's my personal experience with it. Has that been helpful? Any more questions? No? It's not too bad, didn't go for too long. Didn't take up too much of everyone's time. Well, I hope that's been helpful for everybody, and thanks everybody for coming out in the winter and the weather, which isn't that good. I'm here if anyone wants to stick around and ask any other questions pertinent to themselves or personal ones or whatever. I'm happy to have a chat. Stick around, grab some water, grab some lemon or boiled orange or something to stick in your water, whatever it is that you like, and hang about. And we'll go and get Vanessa, and I'm sure many of you will like to chat with her as well, as everyone always does. For me, I think one of the ways that I teach about it is that it should be reasonably common sense about which ones you should and shouldn't, in that we know if we eat oranges, we could probably ingest wild orange, and we eat peppermints, we'd probably ingest peppermint, but we don't eat fir trees, so we shouldn't eat, you know, we don't eat pine trees, right? So we don't go and eat Douglas fir or white fir. So I kind of apply that simple logic to it, and it seems to be, for the most part, pretty effective. And I just think, when in doubt, don't. Simple as that. I mean, when in doubt, don't. You know, especially with the blends and things like that, because people think, you know, oh, well, you know, this has got a safe oil and this oil, but when you know, combine them all together, you don't know what the outcome's going to be if you're not really sure, or then it's easier not to. But that's why we teach dilution, and the essential oils are known to be pretty safe to put on the body, but we teach dilution. Two reasons. One I spoke about before, which is not having it all flash or evaporate off, so you're getting more benefit. I look at buying coconut oil really as it's like insurance for the purchase of the oils I've already bought, because I want 100% value for the bottle that I bought of essential oil, not 30%, because I don't want 70% evaporating off. So if I'm going to buy vetiver at $60 and I want to get really good sleep, then I want full benefit. So I'll use it with coconut oil to help it absorb into my skin. And the reason I like using the doTERRA one, and I know that we could probably get it in bulk and, you know, all those kinds of things, but this is the only carrier oil I've found that doesn't leave my skin feeling greasy, and I am often quickly kind of showering and then chucking a shirt on and getting back out there, and I can put a silk shirt on 2 minutes after I've put oil all over my whole body, and it doesn't stain my shirts. So I think it's gold. Plus, when it's winter, it's still liquid. So, and it has no scent, so I don't want to roll around smelling like a coconut farm. I want to smell like the essential oils that I'm putting in there. Right? I'm done, Beth.
Paul, just
Yep.
just one thing is, if they want a copy of the form that was sent out, it's on the website, www.foodalchemy.com.au, under oils and then resources. Feel free to use that, print it off, and there's an accompanying book.
So this booklet is on there as well, so you can go on there and print it out, or print it out small like that. But basically, a really good guide that's been put together, kind of a combination of Vanessa's work and Tracy's work and my work. I started out by putting the price list together, I think, of the stuff, and And then information on all of the products that I've gone through tonight is in here, and the effect that it has, and what you would use them for. So that's available for free. And for those of you ladies who came here to learn how to teach classes to men, then you can print that off for free. It's on the website, along with the price lists, which are on there as well. So you can get that from there.